the wonderful Wattle. Have you been missing Wattle? Well, in today's video, I'm going to take you back through his time here at Koala Gardens. What an absolutely stunning little beauty he is. Wattle arrived here not too long after he would have separated from his mum, and we don't know who his mum is because he was born off the property. Maybe he was born pretty close by, but it is possible he had to travel away to get here. The first time that we ever saw him was in November 2022, and this is exactly what I found, was Wattle just hanging in a forest red gum tree. I couldn't believe it, because at first I thought that it was one of the young ones living here, but no, brand new koala. Are you interested in being part of the Koala Gardens family? You can support what I'm doing here and get all kinds of exclusive content just by going down to the links below. Patreon is the most popular one at the moment. And I want to acknowledge the Widjabul people of the Bundjalung Nation, on whose land I live, work and play. As you know, sometimes when new koalas come, it can be really hard to find out whether they're a boy or a girl. But interestingly, Wattle was one of the ones that we found out about a bit more quickly than a lot of the other ones. I must say, those bright button eyes and little ears, I thought Wattle was going to be a boy, but I really hoped that that was a pretty girl face. I might be a little bit biased though, because I tend to hope all of the new koalas will be girls. Not because I don't like boys. I love boy koalas. But because girl koalas can have more joeys than what boys can, and I think you know what I mean by that. Look at Wattle out there after quite a drenching lot of rain. Koalas look so gorgeous when they've been sitting in the rain because they're just all wet, and then the rain stops, they have a bit of a shake, climb about, and they dry out so fast. By January 2023, Wattle had already put on about 1 kilo and was not looking quite so babyish. Never fails to just surprise me how quickly young koalas grow up. Every time I see a new joey back at the beginning, it's a thrill, and then boom, it's like you turn around and they're already getting so big. Wattle really never looked back at all. From the time he arrived here, he just seemed to settle into using mostly areas 9, 10, 11 and a bit of area 15. And he was always so calm right from the start. Koala Gardens is a private property, and I use a lot of my own time and money in order to do everything I can to help save koalas by providing more habitat to them. All of my video here is always free. I pay for all of my own video equipment, all of my connection, everything. But if you would like to support what I do, a simple way that doesn't cost you much is to use the super thanks button below and just throw a few dollars into the piggy bank to help me do what I do. I do realise that to a very large extent, I'm probably one of the luckiest people in the world because I get to live in the koala's backyard. However, it's not always fun and games. As you know, I volunteer with the local koala hospital, And I do sometimes have to work pretty hard in order to try and save our beautiful koalas that are now listed as endangered because they're losing so much habitat. When you look at the faces on these amazing animals and just watch them doing their things out there in the wild, you really have to wonder how we can forget how important it is in this world to keep as much native habitat in Australia and in every other country as possible. Because you know what? These forests that these beautiful animals live in are the lungs of the planet. The forests and the oceans are the things that we need to protect as much as we can if we want to have a long, healthy life. Now let's just take a moment to just give ourselves over to the pure, absolute pleasure of watching a koala moving through the trees and doing their stuff, because Wattle does it to perfection. And as Wattle disappears up into the treetops, we'll go to another day where Wattle was in the perfect spot for me to just get some absolutely brilliant photos. How photogenic is this little fellow? I couldn't believe that he was sitting in a spot where there was just no leaf around him, like that could get in between the camera and Wattle himself, because so often that happens when I'm trying to get good photos and video. And I was not disappointed. Can you see all the koala claw scratch marks on the tree beside him? Yep, that's what happens to those trees when koalas are climbing up and climbing down and sleeping and holding on. Wattle's really got his own distinctive look, hasn't he? Even though, to a large degree, all koalas do look fairly much alike, the more you get to know any individual koala, the more you realise they could look quite different to each other. And one of the things I love about these trees, so Wattle's sitting here in a forest red gum, and it's a primary koala food tree, and really it is the primary koala colours and fur patterns, isn't it? They blend in so well. The different types of trees have got really different bark, and so the funny thing is though, that Wattle is blending in quite well against this pink bloodwood, which is very different to the forest red gum. Going out koala spotting can really be a challenge, because those koalas do just become part of the tree quite often. When Wattle first came to the property, Hope was still with his mum Pearl. They were a similar looking size to each other, so I have always felt that it would appear to me that Hope was about 2 months younger than Wattle. In this particular clip, this is the day that Wattle was bailed up in the same tree as Orion. So Orion has moved away a bit and gone up higher in the tree to have something to eat, and that's allowed Wattle to just relax a little bit. He's not quite relaxed enough to just jump in and start eating himself yet, but he's been able to just relax a little bit. And that night, just as the sun was going down, in fact, Wattle was able to sneak down out of the tree and he took off. So there was no harm done, perfectly normal behaviour for an older male to have a younger male bailed up in a tree as they sort out some things about the polite way to live in koala society. And I'm presuming that Wattle learned his lesson pretty well because he stayed around and he, didn't have any other altercations with Orion. So, good idea, Wattle. Learn your lessons first time round. You don't need to repeat them. I love the delicate little nose pattern where Wattle really only has a little bit of pink inside his nostrils and has a good strong black nose for the most part. This is important really because even though I found that koalas with a fair amount of pink on their noses can seem to live a long life and not have a problem, of course the black is the melatonin, and that's the natural pigment in the skin that protects an animal's skin from the harmful UV rays of the sun. So, to a large degree, the more black they can have on their nose, the better that's going to be for them living their lives up in the treetops. Now, Wattle's having a good climb around. He was always a very confident and agile koala, and he's in a huge red gum here and climbing around near the top of the tree. Have you noticed that when koalas go down a tree, they tend to go down backwards, but when they go up a tree, they go up forwards? Not all mammals do that. I've noticed that most possums will normally come down a tree head first, and you'll often see things like squirrels and chipmunks, other small mammals will come down head first. And it's interesting because some birds will actually move up and down the tree trunks and go down head first. So I don't know why it is that some animals will just naturally do that in reverse and some forwards, but koalas are the reversing kind. It can mean that when you're watching them move around in the way Wattle's moving around today, it becomes this funny little mixture of a bit of forwards, a bit of reverse, and then sometimes there'll be a jump. You can often see them weighing up to do a jump, and in this case he really looked like he was going to, but instead, he did the big stretch across. and up into another part of this tall tree. No, I'll go down again. So we're back to reversing. Really, you need to be quite a gymnastics expert to be a koala. Koalas also need a really good ability to judge depth perception in order to make those leaps between branches up in the treetops. It's an interesting thing about koala eyesight because they have their eyes sitting at the front of their heads like we do, but we don't normally have to quite judge distances the way a koala has to judge them up in the treetop. So their eyesight doesn't work exactly the same as ours. They often have some trouble really making out a lot of things down on the ground from up in the tree because they don't really need to know much about that if you think about them when they were living in thick, big, old-growth forests. What they needed was the ability to be able to judge distances and angles so that they could take those flying leaps. And there was a little leap. Not the one I thought he was going to do, but he was wanting to get across to a particular area of the tree, and he just wasn't finding the right combination of branches to get him there up in the treetops, so he had to come down a bit lower. The dispersion time normally happens around June, July, and in June last year, this is the last time I saw Wattle, because he will have dispersed out, which is the normal thing to happen. Much as I wish he could have stayed living here forever, we wish you a long and happy life wherever you settled, Wattle. And this is the end of another Koala Gardens video. So, would you take time to write in the comments below? Live long, Wattle. Thanks for watching. Lots of great videos still to come your way. And don't forget, anytime you're looking for a gift for someone, go and check out my Redbubble store. There's so many different designs there on over 60 different merchandise items. There is something for everyone.